We can go live with these two.
Live.
Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Kinnan. I am the convention chair for Anime Boston. To my right.
I'm Victor. Left. They're right. I'm Victor, the vice chairman. Hello. Text.
Try now.
Hello. Okay.
There we go.
I'm Victor. I'm the vice chairman.
So just to explain why we have empty chairs, we have people en route, so they'll be joining us shortly, and we'll have them introduce themselves when they get here. So we'll start just talking a little bit about ourselves, and then if we have a couple questions, we can start with those and see where it goes. I started in 2002 in the planning stages, and initially I was a staff member with security. I started as the assistant to Seamus, and then later on we decided it would be a little better if we split it. So I was the co-director of security. After that, I did operations, and then I was the vice chair, and then we had a need for a treasurer, so I was vice chair and treasurer at the same time. And the following year, I was the only person ever to be elected and to hold two executive offices. I was the vice chair and the treasurer by an official vote.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then I've been the chair ever since.
Well, I wasn't in the planning phase in 2002. I was actually a naysayer. I didn't think we could do it. But my wife, who's sitting back there, can stand up. Wife. Well, she was one of the original planners, and she was the original director of guest relations, of which I was one of her liaisons. And we hit the ground running in 03. Any of you guys here in 03? So you remember, we had all 5 of the Gun and Wing guys, which is a hell of a coup, pardon me French, heck of a coup for a first year convention. And it was overwhelming, it was scary to have people like that, but it was really exciting and I learned a lot. I was in guest relations as a liaison until 2005, in which I became assistant director to the then guest relations director, Sherry Beyond. After that, I was director from 2006 to 2008, and basically took some time off from calling any kind of shots and ran for vice chair from 2011 and 2012. And here I am today, with less hair.
And here's my other vice chair, Keith.
It was a hard-fought battle, Keith. We ran against each other. Say a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Keith Kizavet. I've been involved with Anime Boston since the beginning. I was a volunteer the first year, but quickly turned into staff. I rose through the ranks in doing merchandising coordinator, up through secretary, and then became Andrea's assistant. And eventually we decided to change that role a little bit to a co-chairman position. So we did that for a couple of years. And now Victor has succeeded me as vice chair. And I'm currently in the position of assistant director of programming.
Why don't you say a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Patrick Delahanty. I named the convention, and one of the founders. I was chair in 2005 and 2006, vice chair in 2003, 2004, and now I'm the game show manager.
Also, you were a guest liaison.
Oh yes, I was guest liaison after being chairman, and yeah, and Adam's on his way.
Oh, good.
Good.
Adam's our original chairman. You want to take questions now? Or no?
Why don't we take questions, and then when Adam comes, we can kind of do story time.
Story time? I love story time.
Yay, story time. All right, does anybody have a question off the bat? We'll try to answer it if we can. Who's behind the door, perhaps?
Door number 1 or door number 2?
Well, then we're going to do story time because you get no questions. Oh, we got one? All right.
How did you determine like how many guests you thought, how many people you thought were going to be here for the first AB?
The first AB?
Because I know your numbers were very off, but how did?
Yeah. Well, here he is. The first AB, there was a convention held in Merrimack, New Hampshire called MegaCon. They had 330 people.
Holy crap, I remember that.
And so we thought, all right, so if we do a con, we can, and we're in Boston, there's more people there, we can probably double that. So we were figuring 660, we'll round up to 750. We were going with a 750 figure for a long time, until the pre-registration started coming in. We realized, okay, there's a lot more people. And I think pre-registration the first year was like 1,200 people. So we figured, all right, we talked to other conventions, usually half pre-register, half come in the door. So we said, all right, wow, we're gonna have like 2,500 people here. Oops.
And our original registrations were done by hand.
Yeah, because we didn't think we were gonna get that many.
So we were laminating all these badges in Pat's living room, and
we had somebody typing in names from all the in-person, they had to write it on a card, and then we print it out, and it was the whole assembly line. With the lamination machines, everybody had burned fingers. Yeah. Oh.
That's probably why we're here still.
So we're gonna let Adam introduce himself.
Yes.
We all did introductions.
Oh, hello, everyone. My name is Adam Ferraro, and I am the first con chair of Anime Boston, along with Pat and a couple of the people here with the guys responsible for this. Oh, what a horrible idea. What were we thinking? I don't know. But here we are today. Hi, everyone.
What was the con that was in Boston just right before the first AB?
The Great American Anime Expo.
That's right, yeah.
It was, yeah, that was held late October at the Heinz in 2001. So some people who say, oh yeah, I've been to Anime Boston ever since 2001, they're probably thinking of that con. It wasn't us.
It was, how many people did that? A couple hundred.
Yeah, not too many.
Yeah.
And
It was a joint convention. It was a comic book, sci-fi, anime convention. They had a shared dealer's room where you could find vendors of all three different types. And then they sold tickets. And if you had an anime ticket, you could come to one section of the Heinz. If you had a sci-fi ticket, you could go to another section of the Heinz where they had the sci-fi track. And if you had the comic book ticket, I believe it was, then you could buy a joint ticket for all three that allowed you to go to all 3 points. So
the programming ended at 6 p.m. every day. And they only used the first floor of the Heinz. And it wasn't very big at all. Should we actually tell the real story?
yeah,
Why not? The real story of Anime Boston's beginnings started at that con. Adam and I, it was the last day of the con, and we were sitting downstairs on the first floor in this alcove downstairs. And there was a table, so we sat on it like, oh, this con isn't that great.
yeah, we were like, it sucks.
And Adam says, you know what, Pat, we can do better.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
We were like, hey, let's do it.
And then it was like a week or two later, he said, yeah, I started talking to the lawyer, let's get some people involved, and so we dragged in Derek and Tiffany and Rebecca.
Yeah.
And then
A group from Anime on DVD.
Yeah.
It's now, what is it, fandompost.com. Chris Beveridge, animeondvd.com. It was the website we all used to frequent. And
We owe a lot of the success of Anime Boston to Chris
We do.
and his old Anime on DVD site.
yes, we used to have site get-togethers and special screenings and everything.
And I think all of those people ended up on staff.
Yeah, pretty much. They were like, okay, hey, let's do this. And they were like, okay.
We also met a lot of industry people through Chris's website.
Yeah. And so, the first year, it was like a gathering for the website.
Right.
People came from other countries just to meet other people they knew from Anime on DVD.
Yeah. We all owe a great big debt of gratitude to Chris.
Yeah.
Did you meet Scott McNeil at that convention?
I met him there, but that's not how we invited him, because at that point, there was no talk of Anime Boston. But I did, that was the first time I met him. Then I saw him again at Anime North in 2002, but he might have been a guest at that point.
Yeah. I'm
forget.
Possibly, yeah.
But then he was at a convention called TotemCon in Natick in 2002. And it was, the con doesn't exist anymore, so I have no problem saying about how bad it was. Yeah, it is not very, I have a review of it on HemiCons.com, and it's an entertaining read, all the things they just did not know how to do. But at that con, I won the costume contest because there were 2 people in it. And the other person won too. They said, all right, you guys can both go have lunch with Brian Drummond and Scott McNeil. And so that's, after that con, I put it back to the exec board of Amy West and said, hey, what if we tried to get all the Gundam guys?
Yeah.
And
We said, why not?
yeah.
We didn't know any better. Why not?
I met a lot of people, and it really worked.
It did. We were like, hey, wait, we didn't know it couldn't be done. So
Yeah,
we did it.
you know, Anime Boston is still the only convention Ted Cole has ever done.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Ted Cole played Wu-Fei and Gundam Wing.
Yeah.
So I got a question. Who here was at the first Anime Boston? Wow. A lot of you guys. What do you remember from that convention?
Narrow hallways.
Fire marshal shutting it. Fire marshal barring new people coming in.
Say what?
The fire marshal barring new people coming in.
Yeah.
The alley that was Artist Alley.
Yes. Interesting fact. There used to be the famous sign of Anime Boston sold out, has reached maximum capacity. All right, and we had to turn people away.
I have that on a t-shirt.
You have that on a t-shirt? I didn't actually know it had happened.
I didn't either. And we were in charge of that.
We were in charge of the convention. I came down and they're like, oh yeah, we had to like shut the doors and like, we're sold out.
So I know all about that because that was the first time that I decided to make a decision where I wasn't going to wait for direct leadership.
Andrea saved the con.
And I'm going to tell you all about it because I like talking about myself. So as I mentioned earlier, I was a co-director for security and didn't have enough staff, didn't have enough anything. I had a $150 budget, I think. And so I went to all the rental companies in Boston and I said, how many ropes and stanchions can I get for $150? And they're like, oh, you funny. But one of them said, I'll tell you what, you don't have to rent both. You can rent just one. And I'm like, well, the ropes are useless. They're just tripping hazards. So I said, well, rent me the stanchions. And then we used wedding ribbon to connect them because I could get those for cheap money or for free. So we separated up all the hallways when it became necessary, which allowed us to keep traffic flow despite the fact that the mezzanine level was very narrow. So when the fire marshal first showed up, he came to ops and wanted to see somebody, and I'm not sure exactly how he got to me, but that's what happened, and he said, there are too many people here, we have to shut you down. And I cried, like, on the drop of a hat. I was so tired, and that was when I learned that tears will stop almost anybody dead. So I just bawled for about 2-3 minutes before I managed to get enough air to say, well, let me just show you what we've done. So I walked him around, he saw what we had done with the traffic. He conferred with some other people and he said, if you cut the line right now, you're good. So I had also very little staff. So I made my sister cut the line. I gave her a sign and she capped the line and she was very militant about it. So didn't matter who you were, we weren't going to run the risk of being shut down. So she capped the line, nobody else got in it. And the fire marshal said, all right, you're good. And so we were allowed to finish off the weekend.
I couldn't believe it when I heard that. I was actually squatting in the hallway with Scott McNeil because they wouldn't let us into the green room because NHK was interviewing at the time our Japanese guests. So I'm squatting in the hall with Scott McNeil who had to go to the bathroom. So we break into a hotel room so we can use the bathroom.
It was under renovation.
It was under renovation, yeah. And man, the things we did for our guests. But I would break into another hotel for Scott McNeil.
That's sweet.
It is. It's persuasive.
A special moment where he had to pee.
He had to be real bad.
Is your hand up?
Yes. How did Tom Whaling get into this?
Tom Whalen, when did you get
Tom Whalen, when did you get in? Rebecca, do you have a story about Tom Whalen?
I mean, it was by accident, really. Like, it was, again, the first year was just anybody we knew, and we knew Tom through AOD, and David Williams, you know. These are just people that we kind of knew through other events. And we're like, hey, we're trying to do this thing, will you come? And Tom's in New York, so he's like, whatever, I'll jump in a car and drive down, why not? And at the time, he wasn't doing half the stuff he's doing right now. I think, what was he involved in back then? It was
One Piece, wasn't it?
No, pretty One Piece. Anyway, so he's done a lot of work in the 10 years since that first time. At the time, it wasn't a big deal. But we just, you know, he's in New York, so he's come every year.
How many people were in the masquerade that year? Anyone here who was in the masquerade that year? No? I was. That is the other big memory that I have from 2003. That was our first convention. We had our masquerade coordinator, and she basically had a nervous breakdown, pressure, stress. So literally 4 hours, 5 hours before the masquerade, she has a nervous breakdown, and I am told that we need to organize a masquerade from scratch because no one can find any information, no nothing, gone. So we were like, Tristan Citrin at the time, she was one of our guests of, our fan cosplaying guests of honor, was like, I'll help you. So in like the span of an hour, we had to figure out how to stage and organize a masquerade. And I got tapped to be the MC, and there's a reason why I've never done it again. It was literally fly by the seat of our pants. People were coming up on stage, I was like, introduce yourselves and tell people who you are, because we didn't even have that information. Interesting story, I was volunteering at AAC last year, and I was talking to a couple of the staff in the green room, and I was telling the masquerade story, and they were like, that was you? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, we were in that masquerade. You were the last group you did. You came up to us and were like, introduce yourselves. And I'm like, wow. They're like, yeah, we were 12.
And they're now running their own.
And then now staff in AAC.
So it was your influence, Adam?
It was my influence.
And we also have never shown the masquerade footage.
Oh, I have a good story for the end of the panel concerning the intermission, but I'll tell that after. It's my funniest story ever. You have your hand up?
Yeah. How did you guys, like, what were the reviews from 2003, and how did you get over them and get to the next convention in 2004?
The reviews were quite good, actually.
Yeah, except for the people that couldn't get in. We heard some stories, oh, I drove all the way from Pennsylvania. Why didn't you pre-register?
There used to be a fan site called, Kevin Willard used to run it. It was called Fans View. And he wrote up a big review of the convention. It was really positive. Almost glowing. And a lot of people read it. And it just spiraled from there, you know.
And a lot of people on Amy on DVD were saying great things because they got to go to the convention and see all the people on the website that they'd never been before.
Yeah. So in spite of turning people away, most of the reviews were positive.
And that made us worry for 2004.
Yes.
Because we had already booked the same hotel. But we were able to get the castle across the street to add on more space.
Yeah, we put the dealers in that.
But yeah, we still had to cap that attendance.
The castle actually had a nice balcony running the castle. We were going to station security staffers with like air pistol pellets for like shoplifters. And they caught someone. Boom!
It was like a catwalk.
Well, we were going to have, I think we were going to have a panel room over there or something, but then they decided to turn it into a restaurant, and they cut off part of the space we had booked.
Can somebody close the door real quick?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Are you planning anything special for the 10-year anniversary?
This convention.
This is our 10th.
This is the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
But it started in 2003.
Well, this is the 10th convention. Yeah, technically it's not the anniversary because the first year is not the first anniversary.
Sure. It's how you
But
measure.
yeah, we're just saying, hey, 10 years. I suppose next year we can go, yay, 10th anniversary.
I'll put in a plug for my event. I'm running a special 10-year retrospective of the winners from the past year's music video contests from 2003 when Patrick here ran the contest right up to last year. So that'll be playing Sunday in Hall D from, I believe it's 11 to 1 or 10 to 2. So all the winners from 2003 onwards, all the audience awards. So that's a special thing we are doing to celebrate 10 years of Anime Boston.
Anime Unscripted tonight, I'm actually doing best of Anime Unscripted, and I've gone back to the last 9 years of games, and I've pulled out some of the exact same party quirks, or let's make a date things that we used like 5 or 10 years ago, and it's the same quirk, but we'll see how these guests do it compared to how they used to do it. And so it's a lot of just old things like, oh, I remember that.
We've also got the museum that's up on the 3rd floor of the Sheraton. That's down by the manga library, just before you get to the manga library, and we have a lot of old T-shirts, all of the old program guides, some of the things that we've special ordered for staff. We've done some we ordered lab coats for people and hockey jerseys. There's one in each of those. A lot of interesting things that were from over the years.
We've got the autograph back from 2003 that I had brought for Princess Nine cosplay and ended up being borrowed by the volunteer staff, and they had the guests autograph it for some unknown reason. And it wasn't my bag, it went to my cousin. So I gave it back to him and he said, I don't know who any of these people are. Do you want to keep it? Just give me a Frisbee. So I've had this bat for the last 9 years, and I decided, well, I'm going to let the museum borrow it, and then I'll put it in the charity auction. So on Sunday, people can bid on the autograph bat, and it has Ted Cole's signature on there as well as the other Gundam Wing actors.
So it's got all.
So yeah, if you ever wanted Ted Cole's autograph,
It's probably the only time you'll ever get the chance.
It also has Tiffany Grant, John Barrett, and I forget. I think it's the Gundam Wing.
So definitely go to the charity auction, get on that. Yes.
Oh, wait, one quick thing. One other thing that we did was we did celebrate Tom Lehman's 10th convention. We gave him a beautiful velvet painting of himself, shirtless, riding a My Little Pony. He said he's hanging it in his phone.
We'll see what it looks like.
I was just going to ask, over the last 10 conventions, what was your favorite Anime Boston moment?
So many. One that comes to mind is 2005. My first year was chairing, and we had Daisuke Moriyama. It was Greg Ayer's first year, and Greg came on stage dressed as Chrono from Chrono Crusade. We had my friend Ricky come on stage dressed as Rosette from Chrono Crusade. So we had the creator and the 2 people dressed up in really good costumes, and he called them like he loved it and called them the official cosplayers, and so they thought they'd break nuts. And then later on in the green room, he was just there drawing, and after he left, we saw that he had been drawing A-Chan. And he didn't finish it, he didn't sign it, and nobody actually saw him draw it, but it's where he was sitting, so we assumed it was him.
It's definitely the styles.
Yeah, and so that was pretty cool.
That was the year I took him and his manager to a WWF interview in Manchester. His manager was a huge wrestling fan, and it was a show at the same time, and I thought, okay, we'll take him out. And it ended up being a pay-per-view, which we didn't know, so it was a huge show. And they were so excited, it was speechless. It was great. Great. No words.
My favorite.
Oh, I'm sorry. We got him we got them seats next to the catwalk where they walk down the ring, so they could just literally reach out and like, touch the sweat. That wasn't my favorite moment. Mine came from 2003 when I walked into the guest green room and I witnessed. I think it was Kirby Morrow and Brad Swell and Mark Hildreth playing catch, but they were throwing grapes in the air and they were catching it with their mouths. And I thought, wow, I could charge tickets for this.
You're weird.
I am weird.
My favorite moment is actually, I have funny stories, dime a dozen. An actual moment, though, was probably 2006 or 2007. It was my second or third year running the music video contest. I had taken over from Pat. And one of the editors that year had submitted a video, and it was the Chrono Crusade. It used the song Hallelujah by Rufus Wainwright. All right, and I was showing in the auditorium. That's when the contest still played in the auditorium as opposed to Hall D. And it was full. I mean, it was late at night, and they had to be 2,000, 2,500 people in the auditorium. And spontaneously, out of nowhere, literally everyone in the auditorium took out their cell phones. All right, as the song was played. Now, the editor was actually sitting backstage when that happened, and she burst into tears on it. And that's what I would consider a moment, something you don't forget. So I have funny stories up the wazoo, but moments like that, very few. Keith? Andrew?
I still have to think.
Probably the first year I brought my son to a convention was pretty awesome. The whole weekend was pretty amazing. I've been doing this for 10 years. My son is 4 years old, so that tells you that I carried him and I actually was in my third trimester that con time. But the following year I actually brought the end product out and I was like, hey, baby. And I had him strapped to me the entire time and just seeing how amazed he was at everything. And his eyesight probably wasn't the greatest. That probably changed a lot of things for him. But he just was gape-mouthed the entire time. I thought, how cool is that? I carried him the entire time. I had one of those baby carriers. So just seeing like a completely new person taking in anime and Anime Boston and how just it enraptured him, that was probably my coolest extended moment.
You know, I've got a story that's a little similar to Adam's, but not the same scale. It goes back to 2003, and if you remember the elevators at the Boston Park Plaza, I had to go pick up Matt Greenfield from 80 feet. So I get in the elevator, and that was the same weekend as a marathon, so the hotel was just full of people. And half of us were anime Boston people, and then the other half were basically there for the marathon. And there was a young mother, and probably a 4 or 5 year old little girl. And we got in the elevator, and it was full. And then the elevator starts to sink, and it sank all the way to the bottom. And I remember there was a kid who was halfway in the door when it started to sink, and he jumped into the elevator. If he hadn't done that, he probably would have died. But the elevator sank, and we were trapped in there for about 45 minutes. And the little girl starts to panic. And the mother couldn't do anything to calm her down. So one of the attendees had bought a plushie from the dealer's room and just gave it to her. And he was probably 14, 15 years old himself. But, I mean, I thought to myself, he just gave this stranger a toy and calmed this girl right down. And, you know, 45 minutes later, the hotel staff fished us out. And, I mean, I thought this kid was like a hero. And he just let her keep that doll. And, I mean, that really did stick with me. And, you know, it seems like people say kids today don't think about other people, but this kid really did. And it was just fantastic. That's my heartwarming story.
I remember those runners from the Boston Marathon now that you mentioned.
Yeah.
They were like our emergency food supply, you know?
They were, especially because they were wrapped in foil.
Yeah, they were wrapped in foil, and they were like, okay, if anything that happens, we'll just keep the runners. They need to keep it stringy, but, you know?
It's funny, we're on basically the same diet, they were carb loading for the race. We were carb loading because that's what we do.
So I think my favorite moment, or my most interesting moment, is probably the very first year. That was what, 2007. That I was the vice chairman. Or was that
Okay.
06.
06? Stepping foot out on the main stage at opening ceremonies for the very first time with like 2,500 people in front of you. Like,
I missed that.
like, I don't remember any of the details of it, but that very first year was so hard for me to do. And just after the first few words, I think that year I wasn't very graceful, but
He's right.
that first year I was not graceful at all. That year I wasn't graceful at all. The years to come after that, I got a lot better. We had a little bit of coaching at some point. That was useful. And just even despite my failing on stage, everybody seemed to respect the positions that we were in and what we were trying to do. So that was a very changing point in my life.
That was actually the first year that the vice chair had a large role in opening ceremonies. Because I thought that it would be nice to not be up there by myself.
And I have some other larger story. I'll have to think about that one. Yeah, later.
Okay. Does anybody else have a question?
What would you say is the most unusual thing you've come across in the past 10 years?
This is in Boston. There's a lot of it.
Exactly.
Pick a noun and add regurgitation.
I would say being given a basket of corn at closing ceremonies.
I got a corn bouquet. Somebody got me a course of it, then never gave it to me. That was odd.
2004, our Japanese guest canceled the last second, and I don't remember who it was, may have been Derek. He handed me the Japanese guest badge and tried to convince me to pretend to be me. I almost did it.
Adam, there's that time when trophies were being given out of your
I'm going to do that story.
All right. It's my funniest story. So, during the masquerade, intermission, we hand out the music video trophies. We've done that ever since 2003. Pat started the tradition. And he had some really nice trophies made that year.
There were vases from Target that my mother had engraved with a sample master.
Yeah. Really nice, looked really cool.
They looked good, but they were very inexpensive because we didn't have budget.
So he got up on stage because he ran the music video contest, and he got up on stage. I got up behind him, and while he was calling up the music video contest winners that there were in the audience and stuff, I was busy taking the trophies out of the box behind him and putting them on a table. All right, so. Absolutely standard. People came up, got their trophies, off they went. Everyone was happy.
And to the people in the room, it's
room,
perfectly normal.
So we get off stage, and there's Seamus, our head of security, and my brother, who was working the convention at the time, and they're laughing their butts off. And they're like, that was the funniest thing we ever saw. What was funny? We handed out music video trophies. No, what you guys did. What did we do? Okay, so that year, we simulcasted the masquerade. Because not everyone could fit in the ballroom, we actually had access to the hotel, the closed circuit TV system, and we set up to film it and broadcast it so that if you were in your hotel room, you could sit there and watch the masquerade. So we had a staff suite at the time, and a lot of the staff were in the staff suite watching the masquerade and the intermission. We're handing out trophies. So, let me tell you, you have to be careful about camera angles. While everyone in the room saw me reaching into a box, and take out trophies. Everyone watching it on TV saw me reaching into his butt. These are video trophies. I did it 7 times.
Plenty of room.
And I'd go out and come. And when I was done, I was like this, which is
I am so glad that nobody has footage of that.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they being recorded stuff, the camera was still in, but he stopped recording.
Yeah.
He was changing tapes, I think. Because
Yeah.
we were doing the music videos, and we didn't want to record that.
So, moment lost to history, but forever living on in memory.
Something gets lost. And after that, I remember the next year was, okay, make sure we go exactly where to stand. Doing that again.
I found chickens in the Heinz. Chicks. It was 2006, and I was checking room setups, and there were these chicks running around. There were 3 or 4 of them.
Like chicks and birds.
Chick birds, little baby chickens.
Little baby.
It was somebody's Easter gift who they got away. I don't know if there was something in that room to eat, but there were chickens. I checked my list. It wasn't on the resume, but there they were. I found somebody who claimed ownership, and I was like, great, take them away. So that was my weird, awkward moment.
Who were the best musical guests you had at Anime Boston?
Oh, Anime Boston. I would probably say, at least under my watch, the Pillows. Pillows are fantastic. Funny story of the Pillows, I took them to dinner after the concert, and they ordered a mojito. And mojito has muddled mint leaves in the drink, and it doesn't exist in Japan. So they looked at it and they kept saying, "Is that basil?" So I said, "No, it's mint. Would you like to try it?" So my drink went around the table, and by the time it got back to me, it was empty. So the Pillows stole my drink.
And he'll never, ever, ever, ever be cool with that.
No, never. That's why I never invited them back.
But no, when Yoko Ishida was here in 2006?
05.
It was 05? Okay. They wanted to have dinner with the chairman. And, all right, well, they also wanted to have seafood. So we went over to, Summer Shack. And they got the seafood tower, which is all like crabs, clams. It's 3 layers of stuff. Now, what they didn't know was I don't eat seafood, but I didn't want to offend them and not take what they wanted to share with me. So I was there eating crab and all that stuff. Just okay, yeah. But it was a great dinner. But anything for the guests.
I personally like Calafina, but that's a personal.
Yeah, they were good.
Yoko Ishida was about 4'10", and she wanted to sing at our informal dance. And our informal dance was in the room that registration is now.
Oh, right.
So there's nothing separating the performer or the gear from the dancers. And I was off duty, and I had a few drinks. And I get this call from a programming director, and he said, "Victor, Yoko Ishida, where is she? She's supposed to be at the dance." So I'm panicking, because where's Yoko Ishida? I go into the room, and she's entering the room, and I can't find her because she's 4'10". And everyone's sort of crowding her. And I think your husband, James, was one of the security directors at the time. He's an impressive guy. So he actually was able to move the dancers away from Yoko Ishida. And but I don't know how he did it, and I don't care, but I was able to go back to my drink, and that was all that mattered.
He's a very focused man.
I am focused.
Yoko Ishida definitely was my favorite guest here that we've had. And just her wanting to do a performance at our informal dance like that is pretty amazing.
I like to Kaiju Big Band. Not musical, but they're pretty exciting.
you guys did the AMV contest for the past 10 years. Do you guys each have a favorite AMV?
Yes, and it didn't win anything. It was 2003, it was a Trigun video.
I remember that video.
What was the song?
It was Superman.
Yes. I loved that video. And it got nothing. In their judging, it was one of the highest rated ones. And yeah.
Do you both like the same one?
No, well, no, that's a great video. And interestingly enough, when I was going through the 2003 contest in preparation for reconverting, upscaling, and all the rest of it to get ready for the big screen, I was like,
that's back when people submitted on VHS.
There's a couple VHS entries in there. My favorite video is actually going to be at the end of the retrospective on Sunday. It's what I'm calling the coordinator's choice. It's from 2006, I believe. Now, that year, we had an action video that was really spectacular in my opinion. It was called True Fiction. It was a video set by Enon, all right? And I had picked that video for winner best of show, best action. It was a great video. But there was another video that year in the contest, a Princess Tutu video, set the Hold Me Now by a Danish singer, I think she is, Nani Granvald. And that just blew everyone away. I mean, how do you make a Princess Tutu action video? Up to that point, no one had. And that video I mean, it caused a run on Princess Tutu in the dealer's room. And the deal is sold out. So that's going to be in the show. But I think the True Fiction video from 2006 is probably my favorite of all time so far. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but so far, True Fiction.
Weirdest video you ever had submitted to the AMV?
That's another panel.
Actually, I'm working on putting together a panel called Win, Lose, or Troll. And some of my favoriteest videos that are just so bad they're good. The ones from the screen. Yeah. That's going to be together. It's called Runes of the Wind, is actually my favorite video. And it's just an amazing video. At the time, my biggest regret is we were like, okay, and we didn't vote it in. We really should have. Biggest mistake we ever made. It is the funniest video you will ever see in your life.
Or hear.
If you like Colors of the Wind, if you like Princess Mononoke, don't watch this video. And it's just hysterically funny. We've come to the conclusion that Yak was trying to be funny because he called it Ruins of the Wind. But at the time, we were like, is he being serious? Is he serious? But it's by far the best video I've ever had submitted anywhere. No one's ever seen it except at the pre-screenings, but it's going to be part of my panel, Win, Lose, or Troll. Hopefully I'll be rolling that out before
Don't miss it. Don't miss it. It's fantastic.
No. This was yeah, that was a good one too. But this one is it has exploding pigs.
So when's that happening?
Obviously not this year. But, I'm going to be working on it, so by next year, definitely. Because I get a lot of crazy entries that are like, really? It's like, are they challenging me? Are they really? You know, I joke about like getting submissions for the music video contest where they like film the TV screen and like got a record player going. I got one like that last year. And it was crooked too.
So the ones that are self-animated on sketch paper?
Self-animated on sketch paper, oh yeah.
But that one was creative, I thought.
That was, it was a good video. He was yeah, like Rain Man.
Anything else? Questions?
What's the story behind the year of the mine of registration?
In 2008?
We decided people weren't like hanging out with each other enough. Fans to really get to know each other.
We wanted to show them all over. I think what had happened is we had a registration system that but they had trouble scaling up to our needs. So we decided to bring that development in-house. Our engineer at the time was also our registration director. But you know how software companies hire engineers to develop user interfaces? Because software engineers don't think like normal people. I think the UI was confusing for a lot of people. That plus the fact that we had the pillows that year. So we had a big guest. We had a system that was bottlenecking, and we just couldn't move people through the line fast enough, and it just got worse and worse.
And the printers were terrible.
And the printers were really exceedingly slow. Yeah, they were terrible.
And jamming and everything. It was just.
I think when it sped up when we asked our own staff to help walk people through the system, but we realized that after that year, we needed to find people that knew what they were doing.
That was when we outsourced entirely.
Yeah.
We had done outsourcing 2 years before that with a much smaller company that
couldn't scale.
Couldn't scale. And yeah, the next year we're like, okay, we really need to put some serious money at registration.
So, like a little tag to that, that actually was the year that I almost decided I didn't want to do this anymore. And not for the reasons that would immediately leap to mind. The reason that I almost quit was because the line ran along the window, so like right along here, down one floor, and between the windows are those large expanses of very blank walls. And if you're standing still for a very, very long time and you're angry about it, or if you're just not very nice, you start to draw. And so that entire expanse of walls was graffitied with pen, pencil, Sharpie, and we didn't notice it originally because we were paying more attention to the people and they were actually blocking it as they went along. But once they cleared out, they saw that, it got reported to ops, and without a word, I went across to Walgreens, bought 2 big bags full of cleaning supplies, and went out there by myself and just started cleaning it off. And I was at it for hours, until 2 of our security staffers saw me do it, and I was completely numb. I didn't know what I just knew that I had to get it clean, because I had no idea what it was going to cost to repaint that entire wall. And one of them was going high, I was in the middle, and the other one was going low. And I just had no words, I couldn't speak. And they eventually said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Why am I doing this?" And just, it wasn't very pretty. And the whole thing just changed when the one who was going low, one of the staffers named Adam, really stronger than he looks, hugs my my legs, and he just to the wall and just went on to the next thing.
And that year really affected us. I mean, none of us get paid, so we do this because we love Anime Boston, and honestly, we love you guys. So when that line was so huge and so long, and it took so long to get people through it, I mean, like Keith said, we sank money into that because that's your guys' first impression of Anime Boston that year is the line. And if you guys are in that line for 4 hours, I mean, it just sours that whole weekend.
That's 4 hours that you could be enjoying the convention.
And we had a concert on Friday, and people were still in line trying to get in for something that, you know, what they really wanted to see that weekend. And I mean, I was just speechless. And I mean, spending that money on getting that contract system for registration was the best thing we ever did. It was just terrible.
We had a good result, but whatever the attendee experience was, and I won't say that it was all of our staff, the staff experience was just as frustrated and just as powerless feeling. And it was really, actually it's that dude right there. Those 2
Adam,
dudes.
raise your hand.
What I do? No, I swear it wasn't me.
I just told the story about the wall and the drawings on the wall.
Oh God, it was the worst thing ever. It was traumatizing. Weeping. I was like, oh God.
It was this really long hallway, and Andrea's alone. There's no one in it. She's on her hands and knees with a magic eraser.
And it looks like a demotivation poster.
So, Adam, what was it that you said to Andrea to change?
I can't
your
remember what you
outlook?
said, but I was just telling them that that was when I almost quit and walked
I
away.
don't remember anything that I ever say. I'm like, repeat that thing you said that was funny. And I'm like, no, you're not gonna do that. I'd probably just hug you. Hug everyone.
No, you did say something, but there was hugging, and like I said, he's stronger than he looks.
That year we did get, following the convention, we did get a lot of flack from people, and lots of attendees were unhappy with the situation. So it was a little bit demotivating.
I remember one attendee, he shall remain nameless, posted a big picture online about AV Reg lines, and he'd taken like a refugee camp in Pakistan, Anime Boston, Tent City, LineCon 2008, and he'd drawn little line forms here on the picture.
So, I mean, that was a little demotivating, but I think a lot of us just decided, well, we can't get discouraged by this. We need to prove them wrong that we can pull off an awesome convention and fix these problems that we've had. And the next year, we sunk a bunch of money into it. We made sure everything was working perfectly, and we haven't had a problem with the line since. Thanks.
Oh.
I think you raised your hand first.
So on the flip side of that, I got into that line at 3:30 on Thursday and waited for it to open and had a great time the entire convention. And so how do you deal with cases where some people have a great experience and other people have a horrible experience, basically the same?
It's the proportions. You want more smiles than frowns. So you try to skew things so that it's more positive. You can't really say we need to have one for every two or something like that. You just try to make sure that the positive people help the negative people by giving them something to refocus on.
Yeah, and in that case, we could just say to people, look, you messed up, we're going to fix it, and we'll prove it to you next year. I think we did.
Actually, I have two real quick things. One is relevant. There was a line story from the following year that our director of exhibits told me yesterday. I just couldn't remember who told it to me, and I thought it was a riot. So there was one guy who showed up in 2009 when we had the new system in place, and he came with a guitar, and his plan was to panhandle in line because he figured he'd have plenty of time. And so he set up his little, whatever you call it, self on the floor and started playing. He got through about a half a song, and the line moved and kept moving, and he couldn't get enough attention to get any money. And then he very angrily started asking people, well, now what I'm gonna do? What? I have no money. I can't go to the con. I don't know.
With all the cosplayers running around and everyone celebrating and people running around the year with the Yowie paddles, what's the oddest injury you guys have seen?
Actually, I think he would be the answer to that question.
In the fence.
Was that an injury or just
Is being drunk an injury?
Yeah.
Is there a point where it passes from like Charlie?
Those over his friend's house.
Oh yeah, drunky code. He was injured. He was injured in as much as alcohol poisoning is an injury. yeah, we can tell the story. I don't care. Come on up. Whatever.
Come on, Chips.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, Megaphony's good.
Oh man, it was the guy in the elevator.
The guy in the elevator, yeah.
Can you use a megaphone?
Oh yeah.
No.
Megaphone into the mic. Do it.
I would just turn on the siren part as I hand it to Andrea. Okay, so we had this is a kid going to the dance, and he's maybe 17, 18 years old, and he comes out, his, you know, pupils are all wonky, going different directions, and he is just absolutely hammered. And brings us down to the security room, and we put him aside. We're trying to figure out who he is, pull his reg information and stuff. And he gets up and he says, I'm really not feeling very well. So we get an industrial trash bin, about that big. Huge, just like a 55-gallon drum. And this kid's, he's a slight little fellow. And so I come over with the drum, and I'm like, all right, kiddo, here you go.
Do what you gotta do.
And whoa, all over me and my shoes. Oh my God. I mean, he would have been, like, it would have been way easier to get it in. And so I'm looking down and I'm covered in like penne and Alfredo chicken. And so then, like, I was feeling kind of bad for the kid because I'm like, I gotta call his mom. And I was like, I really am interested in this talking to his mom conversation. So I called up the mother, and the mother says, I was like, is this your kid? And she's like, no, he's at his friend's house this weekend. He's not in Boston. He doesn't drink. And I said, I have, you may want to sit down. I have some very sad news for you. But yeah, that was the tale of Drunky Coon.
We have good stories about our attendees too. Victor told me I should tell this story. We used to have meetings on the 3rd floor of the Sheraton. There's a lot of meeting spaces up there. They don't get utilized because who really wants to be here when we're doing this to run business? Huh? So we would meet up, and if you're walking from the Pines to the Sheraton, you look up, I'm sure you've seen that glass.
Video wall.
Yeah, it's above the video wall. There's a banister and it's got a glass facing in front of it. So we would all line up there like birds on a perch, looking down at the people waiting to get into the informal dance. Well, you know, waiting for everybody to get together at the same time. And that was one of the years that a security staffer who goes by Fedora, who's now actually doing photography, had come back from overseas and brought me a bunch of gifts, including this, I don't know, 45-pound
giant fat box of chocolate.
And so I had it because I was planning on sharing it with everybody, but nobody seemed particularly interested. I'm looking down the line, I'm like, why the hell not? So I take the stairs down, and I go, and I just picked somebody random, and I said, all right, here's the deal. I will give this to you, but you need to share it with everybody in this line. And that's exactly what he did. He walked from one end to the other, breaking off pieces of chocolate and sharing it with everybody. And we're back up on our perch like, that's really kind of cool. And they'd be like, what the hell? And they would point up and we're all like, hey. And they're like, oh, conchair chocolate. So it was suddenly like 20% cooler. So that was
more conchair.
That was more conchair. So that was a fun attendee story to counter Drunky Coon.
Well, I don't know a lot of the people.
Yeah, security has a rough job.
Somebody's got to do it.
I think the man in the blazer?
Yeah. Obviously, you guys are all volunteers. What does the money that we give for registration go towards?
Back to the con. This.
You?
No.
Back to the
Facilities.
Wouldn't that be nice?
HD rooms. Thanks for the new registration system that we got in 2009.
Guest airfare from Japan, also very expensive.
Yeah, every penny goes right back into the convention.
Fair enough.
Did you have one?
Actually, yeah, I did. Since you've got a security guy, what is the strangest thing you've had to confiscate from somebody?
We can't talk about that.
Okay. He's thinking. Do it.
Is anything jumping in mind, Mom? I mean, we've had.
Maybe we have people that don't realize that they have swords with them.
Okay, yeah. So this year, I'm gonna be like totally terrible at telling from this year. This girl comes in with a katana, and she's like, "This is decorative. I've you know, the handle's attached." Hands it over to us to inspect, and one of the other security managers, Alice, takes it and goes, and shink, out comes the live steel blade of the katana. But that's, I mean, we get katanas every year. I mean, we had a wrench, like a 20-pound steel wrench. We had
what
we had
about
the ball and
bayonet?
chain. Oh, yeah. Well, it was like a World War II bayonet.
Yeah.
Well, it's education at least. And there was a ball and chain with spikes on it. Today, somebody came in with a compound bow, and they had covered the bow part of the bow with like styrofoam and like little Naruto swirls or whatever, and it's still it's still got the string, and so you can still kill someone with it. You put an arrow in it, you punch through half an inch of steel with it, and they were so confused, cried a lot when we took it. Which you never want, but I mean, these people bring in, like every year I would say that there's 20 or 30 things that would kill someone. And we try to take those out. I'm probably forgetting, I'm sure there's some really wacky shit that just...
A shovel?
Oh, yeah, no, we have a shovel down there now. Yeah, but
It turns into a hardware store over the weekend.
It does. Or a fetish shop. I mean, it's
And a fetish shop.
But that's a different dimension.
Yeah. Wacky stuff, but I think I can.
So here's the thing, we're at 5 o'clock. So we can probably do it a little bit more before we start being bad neighbors. So we're gonna have to be super respectful when the next panelists come in and like leave very quickly. Is that okay with everybody?
I think it'd be conscripted at 6, so we'll have to leave in a little bit anyway.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be very much longer. Okay, so I think, yeah, this gentleman here.
I just think that's like, so over the past 10 years, like, how has your attendee base changed? Like, in demeanor, are attendees now just like attendees from 10 years ago? Or like, what's changed? Do things like...
We've gotten older.
We've gotten older.
But the average attendee is always going to be a special snowflake. So and that's like all of them, because everybody has different needs and wants, and we try to meet as many of them as we can. But everybody changes every year, so even the same person is going to be different and need different things from year to year. So it's really hard to say, but if you want kind of like an overall perspective, I don't know, what do you think?
I think AB's always been a very young convention, and that really hasn't changed. We still
the first couple of years, we're a little older.
I don't know, I was looking at some of the old photos, and I think people
I think we just got
the same age. The only people that are older are us now.
AB's a young convention. There's a lot of young people who come every year, and that's always been the way, ever since 2003.
Especially when you compare, well, just any anime con versus a sci-fi convention.
I would say that one of the big things isn't that attendees change so much as what they have available to them, because cell phones are a lot more prevalent. Having one was probably rarer, and not having one is probably the rarity now. So having to do things like boost the mobile signal, that was never a concern, but now it is. So I think that they're just better connected in a way that they weren't before. So that would be one big thing that I could think of.
Were they always as rowdy as they are?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps even rowdier.
Our attendees are kind of rowdy, but what I've found over the years is that you're all quite respectful. So if authority comes and has a problem with something that you do, you shut up and follow directions.
This is an idealized situation.
You know what? There is a social responsibility that you can tap into, because what volunteers give it, the volunteers can take it away. So if we say, look, if you continue to draw on the walls, we will not let you get into them. That message is communicated really quickly, but on the individual level, it's a case-by-case basis, and then we refer them to Seamus. You know, they do what they need to over the front of his clothes, and we move on.
What to happen?
Okay.
What's your relationship with PAX East, and do you guys talk a lot?
Oh, it's super positive. I talked to a particular guy over there named Khalil. especially as we got close to the convention, very, very frequently. As a matter of fact, some of the benefits that we have is I did the work to boost the mobile signal. I use my contacts at work. My real job, I work over at MIT, and I work on the communication section for the emergency management group. And so we had done it before, so I knew how to get it done, and we did it for this weekend. One of the things that they did for us is they included us on their shuttle schedule, so their shuttles now stop outside of the Heinz, so if you want to go to both events, we've made it very easy to do so. We also have a booth in their exhibits hall, which was, if we had paid for it, very expensive and probably not something we would have been able to do. And a portal connecting the two events so we can look at each other.
Literally a portal.
Literally. So I would say it's overwhelmingly positive. I'm really glad that we were able to partner up.
We share staffers too.
A few, yeah. We have some of our staffers who actually will be shuttling themselves between the two events. Yes?
I'm just curious, is there any particular lessons you may have learned from being on the committees for AE? Any particular lessons you think that you'd like to impart to us?
Be nice.
Be nice.
I mean, seriously, I'm more willing to do anything to make your situation better and more positive. If you're going to come and say, I have a real problem, help me solve it, then you're so bad and your convention sucks, and da, da, da. And so that's a personal example, but it's something you can use in every example. Like, you can use it for anything. Just be nice to one another, be respectful, be good people. That's life
It's giving me the warm fuzzies.
You know, when I was a teenager, I wish I had AV. We didn't have AV. I wish I did. Maybe I wouldn't have been in the locker in gym class, like inside the locker.
I never fit. I was the bad kid.
No, we never had this when I was a kid. And I think it's great that we're able to provide this for lots of kids to have fun, come be themselves, meet other people like them, you know, just let down the guard and just really have a good time and know that there are people in this world who are just like them and love them for being crazy.
Friend is not a verb.
Yeah, friend is not.
Friend is not a verb. Friend is making a connection with somebody and having a positive relationship. It is not a verb. So when you friend somebody, you're not actually their friend. That's something that I think everybody needs to learn.
That sounds like an old person opinion.
I'm going to shove an old person opinion right in your old person something.
That was great. I didn't pick up on that.
Rick, are you leaving? I want to give a shout out to Rick. He was our Director of Ops from 2005. So let's give him some recognition.
He actually took over for me, as a matter of fact.
Yes, I was the overnight ConOps. I was the person who wasn't doing the midnight shift at ConOps when I was getting the plaintive cries from security. Is anybody out there?
Lying at the door.
Kind of like what he's doing out there now.
Now, we laugh and we joke around and we have a good time and everything. But every year, we wonder, looks like there's a lineup there. I'll leave you with
Okay,
this.
yeah, we have to stop. I didn't realize. Okay.